The surprise punch from Yu hit the Great Emperor's enormous, glowing eye. He muttered in astonishment. "It's no use." The Great Emperor said no more. He swung his hand, directly slamming Yu down to the ground. The impact caused the earth to explode. Immediately after, he used two massive fingers to lift Yu, whose body was now weak and offered no resistance, from the rubble. The Great Emperor stared intently at him as if looking at an ant, and sneered. "Your power is only this much." Cracks appeared all over Yu's body, but his face showed no fear. He curled his lips into a smile and replied, "If it were any other creature facing you, it might have been over already." As soon as the words dropped, the Great Emperor's eyes suddenly radiated dense spiritual energy. He prepared to finish off Yu's dark elf form. Suddenly, the Great Emperor flinched and paused. Another clone of Yu shattered the void and unexpectedly lunged to attack the Great Emperor. This colossal clone of Yu unleashed a powerful spiritual energy beam, a hungry force that enveloped the Great Emperor's large body. The Great Emperor stood motionless. He glanced towards this clone of Yu, suspicion evident in his eyes. The next second, he waved his hand, firing 5 streams of spiritual energy in retaliation, and said, "Your attack is completely useless. Perhaps it only blinded me a little." The crimson spiritual energy accurately struck the massive body of Yu's clone, piercing straight through its defense and destroying its physical form. Struck by the blow, Yu was severely wounded and crashed heavily to the ground, sending dust and smoke billowing up. Just then, Yu's true form, which had been tightly wrapped in the cocoon, suddenly burst forth with terrifying power. Golden light from the spiritual energy seeped through the gaps in the tentacles that were coiling around him. Yu fired streams of spiritual energy carrying world-destroying power towards the standing Great Emperor. The spiritual energy collided with his body and exploded. The Great Emperor glanced at the source of the blinding spiritual energy. Yu's main true form had now escaped the restraint of the tentacles, and even his dark elf clone had returned to its position. The Great Emperor glanced at his now empty hand. It seemed he didn't know when Yu had managed to escape. Yu narrowed his eyes, his gaze sharp as a blade, and the roots around his body began to move. Immediately after, Yu restored his previous form. His expression became frighteningly grim. The next second, Yu used 1,000 branches, 10,000 tendrils, controlling the roots to grow long and surge forward. The Great Emperor looked at the roots charging towards him, then waved his hand. A stream of spiritual energy was instantly fired out, directly slicing through the mass of roots. He growled, "Boring." The Great Emperor began to gather spiritual energy in his mouth. The next second, he launched a colossal spiritual energy sphere flying towards the standing Yu. Sensing the danger, Yu was startled and astonished. The Great Emperor suddenly controlled countless massive boulders to fly and hover around him. Yu, his face grim, exclaimed, "What?" The Great Emperor controlled the massive boulders to fly higher, then dropped down onto Yu's position with such speed that they created a meteor shower. Countless rocks slammed onto Yu's true form, creating a resounding noise. In no time, he was buried in the dust and smoke. The meteor shower inflicted severe damage on Yu's true form. The tiny body inside, carefully protected within the tree, also began to show cracks. Immediately after, Yu quickly created a barrier to withstand this relentless assault. Each boulder slammed powerfully onto his barrier, causing countless cracks to appear. Immediately after, the barrier suddenly shattered. The boulders pierced through Yu's body and destroyed his physical form. The large tree trunk was also directly punctured. Losing the protective barrier, the meteor shower rained down with a thud where Yu was standing, causing dust and smoke to billow up densely. Finally, Yu could no longer hold back. He shouted in indignation, "Damn it! Haven't you hit enough yet?" As soon as the words dropped, he suddenly unleashed a terrifying spiritual energy. The Great Emperor standing opposite him flinched. "Huh!" Yu narrowed his eyes and spoke gruffly. "Now it's my turn to strike." As soon as the words dropped, he immediately used the power of the elements. Countless spheres of various colors instantly appeared around him. These spheres, carrying terrifying power, shot straight towards where the great emperor was standing. The great emperor used his two hands to shield himself defensively. He confidently said in a loud voice, "This kind of attack is useless." The next second, when the spheres struck the great emperor, the part of his body and flesh he had always been proud of for its near-absolute defense was unexpectedly destroyed. The great emperor looked at his severed arm in astonishment. How can this be?" Yuziyu, radiating a dense killing intent, spoke provocatively. "Weren't you hitting quite aggressively just now?" Countless elemental spheres simultaneously struck where the great emperor was standing and exploded. Seeing that the situation was not good, the great emperor immediately used a technique that transformed his body into diamond to resist. The overwhelming power swept over the great emperor, leaving him only able to stand still and endure the assault. Yuziyu suddenly opened his mouth wide and roared, "Aaa! Absolute evolution!" Another clone of Yuziyu was created, and it frantically charged forward. The next second, it bit down tightly onto the great emperor's remaining arm, startling him. In the blink of an eye, the great emperor's body was tightly coiled by it, leaving only his head exposed. A spatial crack unexpectedly appeared in the air. A bizarre creature resembling an octopus suddenly emerged. The great emperor turned his head in surprise. The colossal octopus used its tentacles to wrap around both Yuziyu's clone and the great emperor in one go. Apart from the octopus, countless other void creatures appeared in the crack. The great emperor's face darkened. "Trying to drag me into the void?" he shouted. Just as he thought, the big octopus's eyes flashed with a red light. It used its strength to pull Yuziyu's clone, which was tightly coiling the great emperor, towards the void behind it. This is the end of the video. Catch the next chapters on the Kapper-sama YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe to support me. Thank you all very much.